The Alienware Alpha R2 is a mini gaming PC released by Dell in mid-2016. It's a cute little baby PC that competed with last-gen consoles in size. This is the R2 version, which is the second and final model in the Alienware Alpha series. Today I'll be looking at the hardware and trying a few games to see how it runs. The specs of the unit are a 6th gen Intel i7-6700T, which is a lower TDP variant of the i7-6700, a single 16GB SODIMM stick of memory, which I upgraded from the base 8GB just to give it the best fighting chance in 2023, and a desktop GTX 960 with 4GB of GDDR5 memory. In terms of I/O, the front has two USB 3 ports and a light-up Alienware power button, and a Gamery LED on the corner, both of which have the RGB configurable in the Alienware Command Center. The rear is much more interesting. We see an optical audio port, I've never used one of these before, two USB 3 ports, Ethernet, HDMI out, HDMI in, that's just for a video pass-through, and an Alienware graphics amplifier port. There's also a secret USB port underneath the unit. There's supposed to be a cover over it, but it looks like the previous owner lost it. Interestingly, the official documentation doesn't acknowledge the existence of this port, so I'm not sure if it's USB 2 or 3. A very secretive USB port indeed. Opening up the unit, we see a 2.5-inch starter bay for secondary storage. Not much else going on the back here. Flipping it over is where most of the action is at. You just have to remove these drawer fans to see what's underneath. In terms of upgradability, we've got an NVMe slot, a single SODIMM slot, which as I've mentioned, I've upgraded to 16 gigs. I made sure it's dual rank memory. Not sure if it makes any difference, but it probably needs all the help it can get since it's stuck in single channel configuration forever. The CPU is actually socketed too, so you can install any 6th gen Intel LGA 1151 CPU. It wouldn't be worthwhile upgrading this unit considering thermal and power limits, but it's great that it's upgradable for those with the i3 or i5 versions. The GPU is soldered to the main board, so you can't upgrade that. This is the more powerful GTX 960 4GB. There is a lesser AMD version with the Radeon R9 M470X 2GB mobile graphics. From what I've read, it's closer to performance to the original Alpha, which had a GTX 860M 2GB in it. Anyway, that's enough of the hardware. Let's look at some games. First up, we've got Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I set it to 1080p with the medium preset, but with the motion blur and depth of field disabled. The low and lowest preset turn the game into potato graphics, so medium is the best choice for this PC. The performance figures are from the benchmark, but the footage is of a random tune because I think it's more interesting. The game hovered around the mid to high 30s, fairly consistent frame time. I could limit to 30 FPS for a more consistent experience, or drop the resolution for a higher FPS, but the current settings would be my preference. Not too bad. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is the next game I wanted to try. Elden Ring would have been more relevant, but I don't have that game, so I'm playing Sekiro. I prefer this game at the higher FPS, so I've gone with lowest setting preset, which doesn't look too bad in my opinion. This is just exploring near the start of the game. By the way, I'm usually playing with this with a controller. I tested this with a keyboard mouse, so I'm usually much better than this, I swear. But yeah, I think it's a very solid gaming experience. It does dip below 60, but it's really not that bad at all. Very happy with this result. I'd have no problem playing it like this. I'm a bit disappointed with Doom Eternal. The game is very well optimized, so I was hoping for a consistent above 60 FPS experience on the lowest preset, but it would drop to the mid 40s at some parts. It's not bad, but I had really hoped for just a bit better, but maybe I'm expecting too much. It's a 2016 unit after all. I forgot the game had a dynamic resolution option. Maybe turning that on would have gotten the result I wanted, though it would have impacted visual quality. The game is fast paced, so I think an above 60 FPS experience is desirable. This is Resident Evil 2 1080p on performance preset, but disabling FSR because it makes the game look much worse in my opinion. I'm just taking a nice stroll around the police station. Not quite a consistent 60, but very close. Okay, some dipping here, but the game isn't fast paced like Doom Eternal, so it doesn't feel so bad. Solid performance. Not going to complain about this game on the little unit. Okay, the final and most difficult game I will be testing is Deathloop. Right from the get-go, the game tells us there's not enough video memory. I found that no matter what you do in the settings, including dropping the resolution, it won't be happy with the 4 gig of VRAM. But I can't change it, so the game will just have to deal with it, and I'll have to deal with the complaint every time I start the game. This is the lowest setting at 1080p with Performance FSR 2.0. This is the most inconsistent game yet, but I found it's like this with other hardware too, so maybe it's just some optimization problems with the game. We can reach 60 sometimes, but it'll dip hard to the mid-30s. Can be a bit jarring having such large fluctuations in frame rates, so frame rate lock will probably be best to get a consistent experience. FSR2 is really helping the little unit out. It definitely doesn't have the crisp 1080p look, but it's playable in my opinion. So the little Alienware from 2016 is not a bad device for 1080p gaming. These aren't the latest games, but I think they showcase what kind of performance you can expect with it. With some adjustments and sacrifices, you can get some pretty decent gaming. You can tell it's struggling with next-gen games like Deathloop, so new releases may struggle even more, though FSR may keep it relevant for just a bit longer. It's a shame Dell didn't make a successor. I really like the compact form factor. It's designed to be a console replacement. In fact, the original R1 was a Steam machine, though this one was only designed for Windows. I guess it just didn't sell well enough. Still, if you manage to find one of these used somewhere, you may consider it as a gaming console for your TV, or just a compact PC if you've got limited space. You could even hook it up to a portable monitor and wireless keyboard and set up in a coffee shop, and people won't think you're completely insane. Just mostly because laptops exist.